So, I have a confession to make. I thought the Los Angeles Clippers would be one of the best teams in the NBA this year and a clear championship contender. In this industry, nobody is ever right about everything they say, and if they pretend to be, then they're the biggest phonies around, and that's why it's important to recognize when you're wrong in order to learn and adjust for the future when similar situations arise so you don't get duped the same way. The Clippers duped me. They're off to a terrible start to the season, and things might only get worse, which is exactly what we'll be addressing in today's video. Today we'll be going over everything that has contributed to their rocky start to the season, why all of the original hope for this group is proving to be false hope, what got them to this point, and what it means for them moving forward. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but it also very much appreciated. Now with that being said, let's begin. I'm fully acknowledging the error of my ways leading up to this season, don't get me wrong, but let's not pretend that there wasn't any reason for hope with this group at all. Before this season started last year, we were hearing a lot of the same doubts from the general public about the Clippers' chances, and they were being completely written off throughout that summer after they had just lost Paul George in free agency. Kawhi Leonard was still out injured at the time, they didn't necessarily make any massive moves to replace Paul George, and there wasn't anything indicating that they would be able to hold the level of play that they maintained over the last 5 years. And yet, that's exactly what they did last season. James Harden turned the clock back a bit and pretty much carried their offense on his back, reverting back to being the hub of creation for them and making his first All-Star appearance in 3 years, after most had written him off as a player that was able to be at that caliber at age 35. He completely held down the fort in the first half of the season. The absence of Paul George also allowed Norman Powell to step into a more prominent scoring role, and he posted career highs for them. Ivica Zubac also had an incredible breakout season, emerging as one of the NBA's best interior defenders, and both Derrick Jones Jr. and Chris Dunn proved to be highly capable role players that embraced doing the dirty work on defense, which boosted the group to being a top 3 ranked defense on the year as a whole. Plus, when Kawhi Leonard did make his return, he gradually rounded back into form, and by the end of the season was also back playing at an all-star level. The Clippers won 50 games last season, which had them tied with the Lakers and Nuggets for 3rd best record in the West, but because of tiebreakers they finished as the 5th seed in the playoffs. They faced off against the Nuggets in the first round and had themselves one hell of a back-and-forth series, but in the end, despite pushing things to a Game 7, their year ended there. Sure, a first-round exit isn't anything to get excited about, but given the context they began the year with, they still clearly overachieved, and that overachieving inspired them to go all in this past summer, which unfortunately is where things began to all go downhill. How could that be? They had an established defensive identity that was locking things up nightly, being ranked 3rd in the league on defense. Their franchise player was starting to put his injuries behind him, it looked like, and they had a summer filled with moves that on paper seemed to address their biggest needs and add the level of depth that modern-day contenders need. And yet, almost a month into the season, the Clippers are currently in 11th place in the West with a record of 4-8, and everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. They rank in the bottom third of the NBA both offensively and defensively so far, ranking 22nd on offense and 23rd on defense. They haven't looked competitive against a single good team yet, with all of their wins coming against teams with losing records, and their core is already crumbling before our very eyes. If you want to get ahead of their imminent implosion, you can head over to BetOnline, where their current season win total is still set at 41.5 wins, and it's actually plus money if you agree that they're going to come up way short of that on the under, so go take advantage before Vegas catches up. So, how exactly did things change so drastically for them one year to the next? Going back to the start of the summer, their priorities did seem to be in the right places. Overachieving is good, but in this league, things can change so quickly that you have to strike when the iron is hot, and that's what they tried to do. They re-signed James Harden to ensure that he could continue to lead the offensive unit. They also re-signed useful veteran Nicholas Batum, and then they made more splashy moves than anybody else to try to seal the deal. In hindsight, we should have known that splashy moves don't always work out when the moves all pretty much pertain to elder older players at the end of their careers. The Clippers did opt to trade Norman Powell in a deal that landed them John Collins, who was coming off of an outstanding year in Utah, where he just averaged 19 points and 8 rebounds per game, shooting 53% from the field and 40% from 3. And at 28 years old, he's still one of the few that they brought in who is in the prime of his career. He should have been a seamless fit in this Clippers rotation, playing alongside a pick-and-roll god like James Harden as an athletic, rim-running big man who also greatly improved as a perimeter shooter to be a spot-up threat, and yet Collins is having the worst year of his entire career since his rookie season right now, with his production tanking across the board. When the Phoenix Suns bought out Bradley Beal's contract, Beal then signed with the Clippers on a much more modest team-friendly deal, and he should have been able to fill the secondary scoring void left behind by Norman Powell in the backcourt, but as has been the case with the last few years of Beal's career in general, that plan has been nothing short of a disaster. Beal, to put it lightly, looks finished as a player that can make a positive impact. He may only be 32 years old, but Father Time has struck down his quickness, separation skills, and shot quality, and on top of that, he cannot defend anyone at this level anymore. He managed to play just 8 games this season before suffering a season-ending injury, and in those 8 games, he was putting up just 8 points per game, shooting 37% from the field, and the Clippers were giving up 12.5 more points per 100 possessions on defense when he was out there, so at the very least, this might be a case of addition by subtraction. Brook Lopez was another intriguing value signing that they made after Lopez had served Milwaukee very well for many years as one of the game's best rim-protecting big men, so having him be Zubac's backup center should have been a nice luxury. He's no longer at the point where he can play starters minutes, but in brief stretches, there were hoping for some sort of paint resistance, and they haven't even gotten that from him. Lopez is 37 years old, and he looks like he can barely even move out there. He's one of the slowest players in the whole league at this point, and honestly, it's looking like it's time for him to hang it up and retire when this season is over. Same exact thing applies to Chris Paul, who will probably be able to thread the needle as a passer on a basketball court until the day that he dies, but everything else about his game has left him. He was looked at as another capable playmaker to give James Harden some spells off the bench of rest after a relatively productive season in San Antonio last year, but this year, he can't even get a shot off, scoring just 2 points per game, shooting an unfathomably bad 24% from the field. Then we have Kawhi Leonard, who, if we're being honest with ourselves, is probably only going to be a part-time basketball player for the rest of his career. The injuries have been piling up for a long time now, and his body just cannot handle the rigors of an NBA season anymore. He only lasted 6 games this year before ankle and foot issues popped up, and he has missed the team's last 6 games because of it. Moral of the story, the Clippers doubled down on old, washed-up, past-their-prime veterans that all wanted to try to ring chase, but they did it in an era of NBA basketball where quickness, athleticism, depth, and sharpshooting reign supreme. I thought some of these players had a little bit more left in the tank than they have shown, but I was wrong, and I need to hold that. With that being said, though, we're now at the point of the video where everyone is asking themselves, where do they go from here? And the answer to that question is a lot more complicated than it may seem. See, the easy answer for most teams that find themselves in this situation would be to just accept their fate and shift into a rebuilding period. Trade away players like Kawhi Leonard and James Harden for as much of a return as you can possibly find, which may not be that much at their ages, but it's better than nothing, and use whatever assets they net you to begin a new era of tanking with a focus on the younger guys. Most of the contracts on this Clippers team expire at the end of this season too, so it emphasizes the need for them to go this route even more. The problem is, that's not an option for the Clippers. We're finally at the point in time where all of the big blockbuster trades the Clippers made in the past, putting these teams together, are biting them in the butt, because the Clippers are not in possession of their own first-round pick until the year 2030. Their pick in the 2026 draft next year is headed to the Oklahoma City Thunder as a result of the Paul George trade way back when. The Thunder also have the rights to swap picks with the Clippers in the 2027 draft. In 2028, their draft pick is going to Philadelphia as a result of the James Harden trade, and Philadelphia has the right to swap picks with them in 2029 because of that same Harden trade. So any tanking the Clippers do would only stand to benefit the Thunder and the 76ers. They are, in every capacity, the franchise in the toughest spot right now. The options they are left with are probably as follows. They can hope and pray that this group can just turn things around and rechannel some of the magic they found last season. After all, a lot of the same players from last year are still there. They could sell off their players hoping to gather enough assets to give them some sort of basis to build off of, or they could once again go the all-in route on free agency game plan either next summer or the summer of 2027. If you ask me, the last one is probably their best bet, just because everything else is super tough to pull off. The Clippers may not have the same draw that the Lakers have, but they are still a team located in Los Angeles, which will always be an appealing free agent destination to players. The summer of 2027 will also be the time when Giannis Antetokounmpo can hit free agency, and the Clippers will be one of the few teams capable of throwing max money at him, with everybody else coming off of this team's paycheck. Giannis' situation with Milwaukee is one that has been worth monitoring for a while now, and the feeling around the league seems to be that this season will make or break his willingness to stay put long term. If the Bucks flame out in the first round of the playoffs for a third year in a row, he may start to look for greener pastures elsewhere. And I'm not saying the Clippers are a surefire greener pasture for him, but they will be a team with a blank checkbook ready to spend whatever on whoever is needed to entice him that summer. But hanging over their heads at the moment is an investigation regarding potential foul play in under-the-table payments of Kawhi Leonard, and if that investigation uncovers foul play, none of these options will be in play at all, and things will fully come crashing down as hard as possible. All in all, it seems like the Clippers are in for a very bleak season. Their ceiling seems to be that of a play-in team, and if they can't even reach that, then the defending champions are waiting to mooch off of their shortcomings in the draft. They've got a lot of difficult questions to ask of themselves over the coming months, and all we can do now is sit back and watch it play out. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about the Clippers moving forward. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.